my name is Beck and welcome to my spoiler recap of Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, just in time for the release of Hellbent, which is the sequel to this. There has been a 2-year gap in between these books, and if you are anything like me, you have forgotten everything or almost everything about Ninth House, and so I thought I'd recap a few of the central plots and characters linked to this story, as well as some of the titles that go along with it. So let's get into the recap. First and foremost, we follow Alex, or Galaxy Stern, and she's the main character, and she can see greys, which are ghosts, and this is a very uncommon ability, and she is brought into Yale on a scholarship to work with Darlington, and both of them enforce the rules of the House of Leith, which is the Ninth House, and they make sure all of the rituals go above board. And so Darlington is what is called Virgil, and then Alex is what's called Dante, and she's like his apprentice essentially. And what happens in here is one of the characters named Tara is murdered, and she's what's called Town, which town people are not part of Yale. They're not aware of the secret societies. And so she is killed on a Thursday, and Alex feels that her murder is linked to some kind of ritual going on in here. We've got Mercy and Lauren, who are Alex's roommates at Yale, and neither of them are aware of the secret societies that are involved. We've also got Detective Abel Turner, and he is the Centurion, which is kind of the liaison between the university and also the chief of police. And he doesn't seem to like his job, but he likes the paycheck, and he's also very suspicious of Alex, even though he will work with her. So I like that there is a lot of tension involved in that relationship. And then of course we've got Pamela Dawes, and she is the Oculus, and she basically keeps things running while working on her dissertation, and she's been here for 4 years. And so she lives in Il Baston, I think, and that is like the safe house that is warded against all, greys and evils, etc., etc. And she lives there, as well as maintains all of the magical artifacts and objects that the delegates of the Ninth House, so Darlington and Alex, use in their day-to-day. There is also the bridegroom, or Bertram Boyce North, and he is the ghost from the 1800s, and he is said to have murdered his fiancée Daisy. And then he is in present day, obviously as a ghost in a grey, almost haunting Alex and protecting her, and she teams up with him in order to solve the murder of Daisy, and she realizes that the murder of Daisy is linked to something that is going on in her current life. So all of the rituals over the course of the last, century or so have been linked to one person who is a serial killer, using these rituals to rejuvenate her soul. And this brings me into talking about some of the key players in here. So we've got Dean Sando, who is obviously the dean of the university, and he knows about the secret societies. He's the one who employed Darlington, he employed Alex, and so he's got a lot of power, but he's also going through a really messy divorce at the moment and needs money. And so he engineered the murder of Tara in order to give himself more funds, because it is a funding year for the university, and so all of the major houses need to give him money in order to keep rejuvenating themselves. And so to do that, they all pitched into this ritual, and he drove the murder of Tara in order to create like a new ritual ground or a new tomb for a different house. So he's rejuvenated that land so a new place can be built, and so to do that he sacrificed a girl, and Alex is like, that's not on. And we also get to explore Alex's backstory in here, but it's a slowly evolving thing. And so she talks about Helly, and Helly is this girl who, when Alex was younger, she got involved in drugs because the drugs made the greys go away, and she is very much struggling on her own after a very graphic sexual assault in page 122 of the book. In chapter 7, I wrote the chapter down, she gets assaulted by a grey, and she's like, they shouldn't be able to touch me, they've never been able to touch me before. And so after that interaction, she wants to shut as many of the greys out as possible, and she also has this rhetoric of, why did it take so long for these privileged societies to recognize me as an immigrant child suffering on my own and having to resort to drugs in order to protect myself from the greys, when it would just take a few words that reminded them of death in order to send them away. So she's really upset and obviously angry at all of this injustice that has been caused just by letting her exist. Even though they knew about her for years and they've been keeping track of her, she's like, why didn't you protect me? So because of that, she has a lot of rage, and I think that's why I really enjoy reading about her as a protagonist, because even though her moral compass is kind of in the right place, she does have that sense of, I'm gonna go and grab this person by the scruff of the neck and rough them up a little bit in order to get what I want. And she does talk about Ground Zero a few times during the book, and this is at the flashback to when she is with Helly, who is this girl who I mentioned before, her friend who is also involved in drugs. And one night Helly and Alex go out to a movie, and Helly leaves Alex there in order to protect her, and then goes back in order to, I think, do a deal or sweeten the pot for something that's going on with the drug dealer Len, I believe his name is. And this is also Alex's boyfriend at the time, who's quite abusive, and he has all of these other guys over at the time, and Alex returns back to everybody after not having any money for a bus fund, and she finds Helly already, high, and also Alex gets high at the same time, and Helly falls asleep next to her. And in the morning when Alex wakes up, Helly is sitting up next to her, but then Alex realizes that that's Helly's ghost. And so Helly has been, ransacked and used in her drug-addled state, and then she's died from the overdose of drugs in her sleep. And so Alex is on an absolute rampage, takes her soul willingly and uses that to bolster her strength, and basically murders everybody who was abusing her and just using her at what's called ground zero. And when Helly left Alex's body, that is when the cops came, and so Alex lay down next to Helly. And because Helly was so high, when the ghost of her left Alex's body, there was enough fentanyl in her system to wonder how she's survived. So that was like Helly's last gift of saying, we killed our abusers and let Alex be free. In the beginning of the book, we encounter the fact that Darlington is missing, and Darlington has disappeared because Alex froze, and he was on the cusp of learning about what her past entailed and how she killed these people. And because of that, Alex is not actually quite sure. She froze and was unable to act when Darlington got sucked into a black hole, like a void or a portal, they believe it was. But it was actually the mouth of a hellhound. And that mouth of a hellhound was engineered by Dean Sando because he wanted to get Darlington out of the way, because Darlington and Alex, I suppose, were beginning to learn about the rituals and how they informed the different points of power for each of the societies over the past 100 years. And Dean Sando was going to sacrifice Tara in order to create a new one. So he didn't want Darlington seeing the pattern occur and then linking it to Sando. So he's like, I'm going to get rid of him, and then gets rid of Darlington, doesn't get rid of Alex, but thinks he can just push Alex to the side because she's silly and doesn't know anything. Really, she's got a fighting spirit, and she really proves that to him when she confronts him. And then while she's confronting him, we get Professor Bellbaum, and Bellbaum enters the scene and says something about seeing the ghost of North inside Alex, because Alex took North into her in order to be strong and protect herself against whatever Sando would throw at her. And so when Bellbaum enters, she dissipates all of the tension in a moment by getting everybody to sit down. And she says something that I found very interesting, which is, we are wheel walkers. All worlds are open to us if we are bold enough to enter. So she says that to Alex at the beginning of the conversation, and that made me think, oh, Bellbaum is going to be like a mentor to Alex, and she's going to learn her abilities through Bellbaum. But no. Bellbaum is actually Daisy, and Bellbaum has basically eaten the souls of these girls over the past 100 years or so. And so Alex is like, well, she's the serial killer. She's this white woman taking the souls of these immigrant women in order to stay alive. And Alex overtakes her, and they have a final showdown, and Alex takes on all of the greys in the area and unites them against her and frees all of the souls so they have a proper rest. And so because she did that, she's basically drained all of life from Bellbaum and has stopped these murders and rituals from ever occurring again. So that was an intense conclusion. And also Dean Sando, I think, got stabbed, he got his soul sucked out by Bellbaum. The murderer of Tara got sucked out and died. Bellbaum got killed off by Alex. We also have another character named Blake, and he is like that high school jock, and he used Merity, which is the drugs that manuscript one of the main houses, the main 4 houses. There are 4 main houses and 4 lower houses, but one of the 4 main houses manuscript were engineering drugs in order to obviously make a massive profit, but one of the drugs called Merity is the compulsion drug. So whenever you take it, you are completely submissive no matter what anyone says to you, and it's supposed to be like an initiation drug for manuscript, but naturally it gets out, and Tara is the one who was dealing that with her boyfriend Lance. And so initially that's what the police were going to charge Lance with. He was going to be the murderer of Tara because they are both drug dealers, and Alex is like, well, no, that's not the case. In another life, Tara could have been me. I was just lucky enough at the time, because of my circumstance and Helly saving her, to not get into that situation and not get killed. So Alex really sees herself in Tara's circumstance, and because of that she's more drawn to solving Tara's murder. And so she uncovers all of the lies about the drugs. She uncovers the fact that Blake is involved, and he sexually assaults Mercy, one of Alex's roommates, and then Alex goes and uses a coin of compulsion and makes him literally eat, I don't want to swear on my channel just in case I get demonetized, but like he eats his own poop basically, and that is filmed and released to everybody. And so at the end of the book he wants to get revenge on Alex, and he comes by with a compulsion charm, knocks out doors, and tries to murder Alex, and at the same time tries to attempt to murder Dean Sando, but Sando is actually behind the whole thing and trying to make it seem like Blake will take the fall. But I do want to now touch on a little bit about Darlington, because I absolutely adore him, and I'm very sure I'm not alone in that. But chapter chapter 13, we get a bit more of his backstory where he's talking about the fact that he looks rich, but he actually is not close to his parents at all. They are just money hungry. And so he used to live with his grandfather in Black Elm, I think that's the name of the house. And all of the electricity got turned off. He had to work a couple of jobs in order to keep himself afloat and keep the lights on. And he was always interested in magic and the occult. And so when he's 17, he makes this elixir that he is hoping it will give him the ability to see ghosts and to see into this magical world. But instead he goes to hospital and almost dies. And so when he realizes that Alex can actually see greys without having any elixir or effort whatsoever, he's very envious of that, but doesn't realize her past and how filled with trauma and fear it is and how much of a survivor she is. So in a sense, both of them are kind of facades because they've got this traumatic backstory, because he obviously lost his grandfather, didn't have a family to help him out, and had to survive on his own. And Alex, while she has a supportive mother, she can't really tell her about the greys. So she has this traumatic backstory because of her sexual assault, but she also has this constant survival aspect using drugs, and her mother thinks she's just a drug addict. And so because both of these characters are survivors on their own, and then they come together in order to learn about and protect and uphold the House of Leith, which is the 9th house. I like that they've got not similar backstories, but enough relatability in order to be a unified front. And it was also very heartwarming, but also heartbreaking, because Darlington said magic had almost killed him, but in the end it had saved him, just like in stories, because he's referring to when Dean Sando turned up by his bedside in the hospital and offered him the scholarship at Yale. So he came to learn about magic by almost dying, in the same way that Alex came to learn about magic by almost dying. And then this all brings me to the very exciting ending, because all throughout this book I just wanted Darlington and Alex to interact. However, obviously Darlington isn't in the picture because we are seeing before and present day, so Darlington has now been sucked down into that hellhound's mouth, and Alex is like, well, we need to go and get him. And then we get to the very end of the book, and I think it's important here to note that before Alex could see the greys, but now after connecting through them to destroy Bellbalm, she has let them in a little bit more than she did previously, and so she can now see and hear them, and they're in colour. So that just tells me that a lot more is at risk in terms of Alex and her connection to them, and I think that's going to actually bolster her when she goes to save Darlington, or save whatever Darlington is now, because when they were in about the midpoint of the book, Dean Sando was like, we need to do this ritual and bring him back. However, obviously Dean Sando is a villain in here, and his goal was not to bring Darlington back because he's the one who obviously banished him in the first place, and so he blocked Darlington from ever being able to return from Black Elm through this ritual that they did. And so based on what Alex heard in that ritual, she was like, well, Darlington is not dead, and I don't believe that he's gone forever. So both Alex and Dawes want to bring him back. Alex also heard whispers of the gentleman demon when she went and visited the bridegroom in that river. So she basically died and crossed over temporarily so that she could talk face to face with the bridegroom. And because she did that, she can now contact the bridegroom through any body of water, whether she fills a sink or she's at a lake or whatever. So because she thought, oh, there's the gentleman demon, who else could that be? Darlington was always referred to as a gentleman of Leith, and so she thinks that that means Darlington is also alive in some way, and the bridegroom could not find him in the afterlife either. So she's like, well, he's here somewhere, so let's go and find him. And the final words in this book are, who's ready to go to hell? Which makes me think that they're obviously going to go to hell to bring Darlington back. And I don't know if that means he's a demon or not, but the fact that Bellbalm said we are will walkers, all worlds are open to us if we are bold enough to enter, I feel like that means Alex can go to hell and then come back. This was such a tense, detailed, and gritty book. I also quite like Alex as a protagonist, but I've heard people that don't like her and just like Darlington. So I'm looking forward to seeing what their dynamic brings, and I have a theory that maybe Alex and Dawes might end up budding a romance, but I'm not really sure. Anyway, it's all hearsay until I read Hellbent, but let me know if you liked this recap. Let me know if I missed anything. Let me know who your favorite characters are. I would love to know, but thank you so much for watching this video. I'll come chat to you down below in the comments, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.